Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Tier Force Heroes. I'm here with my pals, Corey and Nico. How's it going?
Hello.
It's going.
Yes. Happy New Year to
Happy
both
New
of you, I
Year.
guess.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
It's the start of a new year, and for this video, our theme is beginnings, new beginnings, I guess. And so we're going to be tier ranking the beginnings, the introductions, whatever you want to call it, for every Zelda game. We don't really have a real definition for that for some of the games, but basically it's like what brings you into the game. So whether it's does it tutorialize you well, does the story hook you, the gameplay, what is it? We're going to be ranking them, and we're going to kind of be setting our own criteria, so that'd be kind of fun.
I didn't even make that beginnings connection, so that's a good thing to point out.
Yes, that was my whole I was like, what's new beginning?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
perfect.
does that work for you?
Yeah, I love it.
It works for me.
Is there anything else we need to lay the foundation? I feel like
We
That's
are
basically it.
only doing mainline non-multiplayer games.
Yeah.
You will see a couple on this list that will just remain unranked.
Yeah, we just pulled a random Zelda tier for
We
this
pulled
one.
a super personalized one from Tier Maker. So you will notice that. And then other than that, it's just kind of our own personal interpretation of what is the beginning of the game. So some of us might see that end at a different point. So it'll be kind of our own interpretation.
And you're welcome to interpret it how you want, and obviously leave a comment on what you think, how you would interpret it. If you disagree with us, that's totally fine too. That's cool. And
Everyone's going to
what do you-
disagree with us. It's okay.
Of course. So should we totem?
Is it
Yeah,
totem
now
time?
that the intro of this video is done, let's totem time.
Are you ready?
Totem.
Actually, I think
time.
we're still doing the. Oh yeah, totem time.
Ah!
It's the end of the intro.
Okay. I think if we're doing the beginning, we should start from the beginning. We don't have to go in chronological order, but I want to start with the first game, The Legend of Zelda.
Yes.
I love the beginning of this game because they just drop you into the world and you're kind of free to explore. You're free to get that sword if you want, or you cannot. But I love it because the world's pretty much open. You can go almost anywhere. You can access a lot of the dungeons. At least the first three are easily accessible, and for me that's awesome. For me, I could see obviously it getting argued down, but for me, it's one of my favorites. So I would personally put it in S tier. And I could see some arguments against it, which I don't know if any of you want to make. I will let you, but I'm not going to. I'm not gonna.
Nico, what do you think about this intro? Where would you put it on this list? Because I want to go last.
It's been a little bit since I've played the original. Maybe about a little over a year, I think. But I would say I've always really enjoyed the beginning because it's the classic, older video games like that are hard. Just they were harder, less handholdy. They just expected you to figure stuff out, which was kind of like the magic of video games back then. And I feel like that's something that a lot of modern video games have kind of lost almost, because we expect there to be more of a build up, more of a setup. But I think The Legend of Zelda really set a precedent for you're on an adventure, discover it. And it was truly an open world game back in its very early times. So I think I would probably say A, but S is, I think it would deserve an S just because it's simple, it's understated, but I don't know. I think it's powerful for just saying, okay, good luck. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this,
Yeah, I was thinking about this before we started recording, and it's the Zelda series usually it likes to do one of two things. It's usually either you're in it, start going, just go, or it's a sequence of events. You got to talk to this person, talk to this person, talk to this person, kind of unfurls the beginning of the story to you. And I feel like this is like the pure essence of you're in and just go. And I think when you even boil it down to literally the game starts up, it literally opens up, and there's nothing to do on the screen but leave the screen. And you're immediately presented with 4 choices: go up, go left, go right, or go in this door. And I think that's amazing because I feel like 9 times out of 10, most people would likely just go into the door, and a guy's like, here's a weapon, be careful. And then from then on, you just kind of start expanding your scope of the world and figuring out where you can go to. But kind of like Goo was saying, you'll likely stumble. You don't even have to get to dungeons, but if you do stumble upon dungeons, it's going to be level 1, level 2, or level 3.
Mhm.
And when you first start seeing enemies, it's usually going to be Octorok. So even though it is just a throw you into the action, feel free and go type of intro, it is also somewhat of a tutorial.
Yeah.
You know, because fighting Octoroks in the first few screens is kind of teaching you what it's going to be like when you're facing tough enemies in the end, like Lionel's up on Death Mountain and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think while it is super simple, I think it's really effective. So I would probably say A.
Yeah. I would also point
That's
out,
fine.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of what Breath of the Wild was inspired by is straight like the opening of The Legend of Zelda, and like the Great Plateau. I
Yeah.
think was just kind of inspired by how simple this opening was, and that's kind of what they wanted to go back to. If you look at the games before, they just got continually longer intros, more handholdy, which not necessarily a bad thing, but
Yeah.
they just wanted to kind of change it up, and they went back to the roots of Zelda, and I think it's a pretty good place to start. So yeah, I would say A or S.
A. Well, if you're both were leaning A, that's fine.
Cool.
I'll say like the thing I didn't want to say is like there are some things that are just like not tutorialized well. There are some things that it's
Yeah.
actually the intro of the game is reading that wonderful manual.
Oh,
That-
baby.
That's the intro, and it's
Beautiful.
got the great art. It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's fantastic. But yeah, A sounds good to me. I just wanted to plant the flag strong out
Hell
the
yeah.
gate.
Solid.
That's what you got to do.
Solid intro.
All right, what do we do next though?
Let's do let's go on a little bit of a different path, just because it's kind of fresh in my mind, and to tie this into Gooey's dungeon dive.
Plug.
Wink, wink.
Look at
Let's
the
do
description.
Oracle of Ages.
Oracle of
Okay.
Ages. Okay.
Now, Oracle of Ages basically starts. You have to push a block out of the way, and then it's a cutscene.
Yeah.
It's a cutscene, and that kind of opens up
Mhm.
the story element of Ages, and it's a really cool cutscene. It's some really interesting stuff going on.
Cool vibe.
I'm-
Cool music.
Cool vibe,
We love a
definitely. I'm
vibe.
just kind of trying to think of what I would consider the end of that intro. Would it be like maybe after you save the Maku tree in the past? Do you
That's
think?
kind of my thinking. I feel like after you go through, is it the trail? That like that first little cave to get to the Maku
The
tree.
little cave, yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
that is a super good setup. You've got really simple push block puzzles, which set up the entire game. Because there's a whole lot of push block puzzles.
Mhm.
And it's really simple. There's a couple enemies. You save the Maku tree. You learn about the time travel element,
Yeah.
and then it's
Varen
like
shows
go
up.
off on your adventure. I feel like that's kind of about where you feel like that's the intro.
For me, it's nice. It's For me, it's like B. It's really good. I think it's charming. It's not overly long. But it doesn't like grab me like some of the other games do. But I do really like it.
Yeah. I'm kind of trying to looking ahead a little bit. I do think there are some games that have pretty strong openings, and I think I would probably go B or C, just because really a lot of the gameplay of this intro doesn't really grab me.
Right.
I actually
Yeah.
don't think that path is super good as a tutorial. It kind of just feels like something you just walk right through.
Yeah, it's
I
not
can't even.
hard. You don't
Not-
really have to think
yeah.
about it.
It's not very challenging. You just
No.
kind of waltz through. it's mainly what I like about this intro is the cutscenes and the story setup, and I do think it's pretty strong on that part. But as far as intros for Zelda games go, I think I might say B or C.
Okay. Nico, I guess you can cast the
Um,
deciding vote.
the main thing that's making like that I'm imagining as part of this intro is the very first time you see whatever goddess it is. Is it
That's
Nehru?
Nehru in that
Nehru
one.
in this
Singing to the animals or whatever.
That song is so good.
The song is beautiful and the artwork in that is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this how
Yeah,
what?
I love the cutscene artwork.
It's so good. And
It's
that's
cool because it's so limited because it's a Game Boy and it's just like a scrolling picture.
It's
Yeah.
literally just one frame, but
If you blew it
sets
up,
the
it would
scene
look-
so well.
yeah. I think that's I wanted to keep playing to keep getting more of those. You know, it almost felt
Yeah,
like,
and
almost
it
a little
does
bit of an
provide
anime,
those.
a bit of an anime vibe. Like you keep playing the game, so you get these
yeah,
like cool
yeah.
images. And I think that
know
was
what I-
awesome. But that's like,
You know what I do like too? I think I'd be okay putting it in B now that I'm thinking about it more. Just because you know what I do like too is that even though in the beginning it's literally just push this block and go into the cutscene, you get the sense that like Impa's got a little like fourth wall breaking, like heh, I'm up to something because
Yeah,
that's true.
she's possessed by Varen.
So she's like, push this block for me.
I
Yeah,
do.
I can't touch it. I need you to do
It
it.
is very charming. I think B is pretty fair. It's nothing
Yeah.
special, but I
Alright.
think it's charming
We'll
enough
do
to
B.
get to
We'll do
B.
B.
Yeah, that's fun. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be natural to follow it up with Oracle of Seasons, but because I'm not super familiar with that game, I'm not going to. I'm,
Way to go. Yeah.
I'm gonna jump around a little bit, and I'm going to select the Wind Waker.
Okay.
Which personally is probably one of my favorite beginnings of a video game because you're just a kid on an island and it's your birthday and you're tired and you just like it's just island life. You're just chilling, you're having a cool little happy birthday. You get your present from your sister, you go talk to your grandma, you get your clothes. It's cute.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
what could possibly go wrong? A giant bird comes down and steals your sister.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
think this intro, which
It's a great hook story.
all the way through the Forsaken Fortress feels like the intro of this game, which I mean, it's not a short game, so I think that's pretty fair. I would personally put this at like an A. It's not the best beginning of a video game ever. It's not the best tutorial, but it's funny. It's cute. The music just grips you immediately. And I think overall you care about the characters so quickly, while also learning the basics of the game and the beginning of the story. So I think it's a pretty good intro.
Yeah.
Oi! Starts with Arrow going, oi!
I feel similarly about it that I do to Ages. So my pitch would be a B in that
Okay.
I really like the story hooks and all that. Like I think it's a really cool story of that game and the vibe it immediately sets is really cool. But yeah, from a gameplay, it doesn't like really excite me. And I've gone on and on about how I don't really like that you finally get your sword and I'm like in a lot of Zelda
Immediately
games
taken
that's
away.
when it's like let's go do stuff and then it's like
It's like,
actually
psych.
no. And then when you
Psych.
finally get it back again, they're like, now we gotta get
Here's
a
some
sail
cutscenes.
and
Yeah.
yeah. It's like kind of a long time till I really feel like the action begins.
that's
but I do
fair.
like
Mhm.
I do think it does do a good job of setting the table from a story perspective. So
Mhm.
for me, it's a B because yeah, that's how I feel about it.
I think
But
that's
Corey,
fair. Yeah.
it's Corey's got a strong feeling about this.
Well, Wind Waker is my favorite game, but I would pretty much mirror almost everything that you said about the intro. Like, I totally agree. I mentioned before that what Zelda games like to do, it's usually either you're into the fray right away or setting up story stuff. The one other thing, which I think lends itself to being at least my favorite type of intro in video games in general is when you're presented with a sort of intro playground area where it is like go play around at your leisure, but you're still in a confined space that's meant to teach you the basics of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You see this in a bunch of other Zelda games, which I do think do it better, but
Mhm.
I love that aspect of once it starts, Outset Island is your playground. And
Mhm.
there's a bunch of things you can do. You can talk to NPCs, you can find little treasures, you can throw little piggies around.
You can do sword
You
training.
can get on, yeah, you can do sword training, and that's something that's really cool as well. The combat tutorial is a really fun story related moment, and I think it's a good sword tutorial, and it ends up being a mini game later.
Yeah.
So that tie-in is perfect.
I don't know about you
The
guys,
whole-
but as a kid, I swam out as far as I could to see how far I could get.
Yeah.
And just kept
Yeah.
drowning.
And yeah, you have like the little jumping on the little rocks to get the rupees. It's very similar stuff to something that you might find in, say, an Ocarina of Time Kokiri Forest. It has that kind of vibe where there's little things you can do that kind of teach you the basics of the game. And then in addition to that, the story element of it, of Tetra falls into the woods, you save her, and then Errol gets kidnapped, and then you want to go off with the pirates. Like, all of that stuff is absolutely top tier, over the moon in my book.
Yeah.
But exactly like Goose said, if this wasn't followed up immediately by Forsaken Fortress,
Which I don't
think
even
it-
dislike Forsaken Fortress. I just
But
think
it-
its placement is weird.
exactly.
I've always felt like if you got up there to save Tetra and there was like a mini dungeon or something, like that would maybe be a little bit more fun.
Or like
you know?
That would
the
be cool.
first, like Helmrock King Part 1, you know, like the first battle, but then he still wins or something.
I even think
Or he
I even
escapes
think
her,
like
yeah.
fighting bokoblins, which are at that point seems like, oh no, this is a scary tough enemy, and then towards the end of the game, it's just sword fodder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do still think that that's effective, but I completely agree that after that, you're like, yeah, I'm in it. Let's go adventure, and then your sword gets taken away and you get thrown in jail and you're in a stealth section, and then after that pretty lengthy stealth section, or it can be lengthy, it's
Yeah.
more setup stuff. You got to get a sail, and then you got to sail over here, and then you got to talk to these people. It just feels like that part of the game, it's like they definitely could have upped the action, up the ante a little bit sooner. So I would say A.
I would
Okay.
personally put it at A too.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I'm outvoted on that, so I'll
Which, I
accept
mean,
it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, I haven't really thought about how slow that beginning really is. So I think I had it as like in my mind a super high A. And I'm kind of like, you know what, maybe like lower A, but
Well, that's the other thing, is that like I do think it is relatively slow, but I also think slower beginnings of games can be saved if it's charming enough. If it is like, a lot of times I won't really notice how long it's taking because I'm completely enthralled with the setup of the story. Every single time I play that game and Errol gets kidnapped, I'm like, oh no, what are we gonna do?
let's get down to business.
So if it weren't for the kind of pacing issues, I think it would be an S, but that stuff brings it down a tier
Yeah.
for me.
Fair enough.
Cool. Nice placement.
I think we can knock out Seasons then too, since it was hinted at. I think Seasons is pretty good in the beginning, in that it does get to the action pretty quick. Like, this is one where I'd almost consider the first dungeon as part of the intro too, because there's not really a lot. You do have like the hero's cave section of it, but that's really quick, and then they do just kind of point you to the first dungeon. There's a little bit, I think maybe it's because there's less, I think, going on in the story, but like they don't involve like the season stuff till after the dungeon. You know what I mean? So for me, it's good. It's just like the story is a little less compelling, but it's more later in the game that starts to show itself. But for me, this is like solid. So, like, where I would almost put it B, but I don't know. I guess how you guys would rank it.
It's been a while for me, honestly.
Well, I don't know. For me, I kind of think it's decidedly weaker than Ages. I just don't know if it's same tier weaker or a tier lower. I'm somewhere between B and C. And
Like dancing with Din is kind of fun, right?
you know what, I absolutely love that cutscene, and it's the same kind of thing, but even that one, it's like you don't get the little fun stuff of push this block, Impa's up to no good. You literally get thrown on the beach and you just have to walk up a screen.
And talk to
And then-
some random people, and yeah.
Yeah.
And
then
the Maku tree is less cool in this one. Maku tree is not in love with Link.
How boring.
So what? I'm trying to remember what happens after everything goes bad. You wake up with Impa, and Impa's like, "Go see the Maku tree," right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and then you have to have a sword to get to the Maku tree, so you got to go to
Yeah.
Hero's Cave. Then you show it to the Maku tree, and then they're like, "Go to the first dungeon," and then you go do the first dungeon. So it's very like no nonsense in a way. So I do kind of appreciate that. But it does, I think, comparing it to Ages, it says a lot more about the rest of the game, and that I feel like there's a little bit less meat on the bone story wise in the rest of the game.
I think it is. I really think it kind of functionally is somewhat comparable to Ages, in that you have your intro cutscene thing, which tells you what's going on with the story. You got to go find a tree. You have like a not even a mini dungeon that you need to go through, get your sword, and then it's like start going to the first dungeon. But I think because Ages, almost all of those.
It also Ages sets up the mechanic a little bit better because you defeat the enemies attacking the Maku tree in the past.
Yeah.
And then in the future, it's like cool. In Seasons, it's just kind of like, ooh, the weather is wacky everywhere, and it doesn't really. It kind of
just
shows
says the seasons are out of whack, and it doesn't tell you can change it. I don't think you even get the.
You find out afterwards about Subrosia and all that, so it's less compelling, I would say.
Yeah, I think because of that, I think that warrants a
See?
tier lower than Ages. Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I think it's also kind of telling that I really don't remember most of this intro.
Yeah, it's not the most memorable part about the game.
It's not.
Onyx is there. He's not very memorable. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like,
all right.
The Oracle games
Seems
I
fine.
still don't think ever get enough love, just in general, from the video gaming community. But
that doesn't mean they're not without their flaws.
yeah,
Right? Yeah.
I think they have their flaws.
So to round out the Game Boy intros,
Oh
why
boy.
don't we go to Link's Awakening here?
Okay.
It's an S tier.
It's an S.
I'm planting
you know what?
the flag.
Go-
I love
Give
it.
your pitch. Give your elevator
hear it.
pitch. Beginning of Link's Awakening right now.
I just love how it's all set up. One, the music and everything is really cool. There's an exclusive track for
Sword
this part of the
Search
game.
is one of the best tracks in the whole game.
It's such a good song, and I wish I just didn't have to play the rest of the game, and I could just keep searching for the sword.
I like that it gives you some area you can explore still, but it also kind of gives you a very clear destination. The story hook is immediately incredible in this game. I think it's one of the best stories in Zelda. But yeah, then like the path to your sword, and then the way they guide you all through to get through the first dungeon, and the little teases they give you of like, oh, you can't jump over this, or you can't lift this up. It's I don't know, for the whole like beginning portion of that, it carries throughout the whole game, I think, of just letting you kind of explore in this small world, what feels like a huge area, but giving you these little like tastes of these other areas, and just the way it teaches you the game, I think, is incredible. Like it's like riddled with all these like holes that you're just like, I can't get over this, and then when you finally get Rock's Feather, it's like you feel like so much unlocks in your mind. It's like that movie Limitless, when you take the pill that lets you access more of your brain.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. And that's
Link's
why
Awakening is like the Limitless pill.
I don't see a difference.
You
It's
heard it
like
here
when,
first, folks.
yeah, when Neo awakens in the Matrix and he can suddenly stop bullets. I feel like that when I get
Yeah,
Rock's Feather.
It's comparable.
So it's got it all. I think it gets you into the action right away. It's got great music, great vibe, great story. A solid first dungeon. You know, it's pretty simple but solid. And like I said, you can see other parts of the area. You can start doing the trading sequence. You can do some mini games and talk to these cute little characters all over. I love it. I love it.
I've always considered Link's Awakening as like the Campbell's soup of the Zelda series. They condense so much into one tiny little package of a video game. Because, like you were just saying, you've got the trading sequence, you've got the mini games, you've got starting the quest, you've got everything. It's literally so condensed, and you add an item, and there's more. You add another item, and there's just more. And so
they have all those tasty morsels. Even you've got the library that has that mysterious book. You've got the dream shrine to get the ocarina, the weather vane, like all these teases of like, what is this? You know,
it definitely sets up a ton. I would have probably never considered it an S tier opening in my head until I really like sit and think about it. I like your argument though. I think you've kind of pulled me up there.
Well, I mean, what do you think, Corey?
Well, so I share a lot of your sentiment about it. I think all that stuff is totally great. Something that we didn't even mention yet is first of all, that opening cutscene is dope.
Yeah.
With the shipwreck, and then Marin finds Link on the beach.
In both
and
versions,
wake up,
it's cool.
And you wake up and you think Marin's Zelda, and you're like, Zelda? No, that's not me. And then
What's a Zelda?
Terran has your shield, and he's like, how do I know your name? Because it's written on your shield. It's fun. Right from the get-go, this kind of starts feeding into something that I think is this game's strong suit, which is like the thematic element of like, what the heck is going on here? This weird, wacky dream world.
Zelda and Mario are greeting me, and there's an owl that's like, things are weird that you're here.
I think it's definitely upper tiers. My question is, so you consider the forest and Tail Cave as part of the intro?
For me, yeah. I mean, you could do all this in like 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
you definitely can. For me, for some reason, it feels like once you get your sword, it's like off you go.
Really?
And that's the end of the intro to me. And if that's the case, I feel like, well, a lot of everything before that is completely S tier thematically. Gameplay wise, it's kind of just some walking around.
I don't know. I think at least up until you enter Tail Cave. Like, that's like minimum the intro.
So you consider forest intro too?
Yeah, I would, because, you know, besides the enemies on the beach, which are like basically nothing.
Well, I do like that you have to use your shield and push the sea urchin guys.
But I would say in the forest, you've got some like legit enemies. You have to kind of make your way through. You have to, you know, get the mushroom, and you got to do all that. And so you're still solving a puzzle. You're talking to NPCs, you're beating enemies. And I would say all the way up until at least Tail Cave is the intro to me. At least.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some games where I feel like it's a gray area, you know, like,
and this is definitely
Seasons I mentioned.
I think that really kind of hinges, my opinion on S or A hinges on what I see as the intro. So if you guys, but I don't have a hard set, you know, idea in my mind of where the intro ends. This is one of those for me where it's just kind of like it bleeds into.
Yeah, you can't make a rule, because if you say like after the first dungeon, it's like, well, what is
it's not
for like Wind Waker,
not the
what
same
is that?
for each game.
Yeah, it's definitely not for each game.
If you guys want to put it in S, I'm fine putting it in S. If both of you want to put it in S,
I would.
Yes. Okay.
I really want to.
Yeah.
It's one, like, for me, I feel like this one, I feel like Ocarina of Time, also the dungeon feels like part of the tutorial process, you know?
I don't know if I entirely agree about Tail Cave being like intro.
Well, that's kind of what I'm.
But I still think
that's
everything
kinda what
up to then is S tier, so that's why I would put it. So
You know what though? That's what I mean. Is like Tail Cave. I think is one of the best intro dungeons in the series.
It
But I'm
is.
not sure if I would include it as part of the intro to the game.
but then I
Okay.
think of
Which
how
is
many
kind of
dungeons
where
there are
I'm-
in the game. There's a lot.
There's 8.
There's 8, right?
For
Yeah.
how small the game is, it really does have it packs like it said, it packs a lot. It's condensed. They got a lot.
It
Yeah.
does.
S
Well,
tier.
we can disagree on where it ends, but I think
You know,
there's
it's
strong passionate arguments for it to be
pretty
an S.
amazing
S
when
tier is good.
it's pretty amazing when people on the internet can agree to disagree on something
Wow, I didn't know you could do that.
respectfully. Who would have thought?
I wasn't aware.
Well, I'm gonna shoot down whatever you pick next, Nico.
Hey, is it Corey's turn? It's Corey's turn.
It is my turn.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't do Link's Awakening.
Oh, you're right. I picked Link's Awakening. Nico, it's
Yeah,
your
come
turn.
on.
Wow, I'm skipping my own turn. Okay. Skyward Sword. Only because I'm playing it right now. Again. Oof, God, I've played this game so many times. This this intro sucks.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I didn't want to do this again. Where we?
I know. I thought you were.
No,
I thought it was
I-
going to be a repeat of the Fi situation.
It's not a repeat of the Fi because this is the part of the game I don't love. Like it really just
Put it in D. It's so bad.
Here's the thing. I love this game. I think Skyward Sword is an incredible game. I love it a lot. But I don't care about this intro. I don't care about Professor Owlin or whoever horn dude. I don't care about
There's
the
nice
little race.
stuff at the beginning.
There's a lot of flavor. There's a lot of
there's
cute
a lot of
characters.
nice
You meet Groose, which is the best part of the
Zelda.
intro. Zelda is adorable, and she's my favorite iteration of Zelda besides Breath of the Wild. Like they're like tied. I love them, but the beginning is so boring. It's too long. There's a lot of text. You don't do anything interesting. You learn to fly, which a lot of people hate. I like the flying mechanic, but a lot of people hate it. And then
It's
I don't even know
alright.
where I would put the end of the intro, but it's not good.
Yeah,
it's just
it's so tough because it's so long. Like I would argue, I don't even know if I would personally put it in D because I do think there are things that you do, or even the cutscenes, some of them which I think are like really good.
Oh yeah,
Like I think meeting Fi is really cool. I
Yes.
think the scene where Zelda gets taken away is really cool.
In a
I think
black
first
tornado.
discovering the black tornado. That
it's brown. It's brown tornado.
it's brown.
It is.
It's like tan brown, and they're like a black tornado took Zelda away. No, it didn't.
Apparently,
You're a
everybody
liar.
on Skyloft is colorblind. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Got me off on a tangent there.
There's
slow.
like with Wind Waker, there's a certain amount of like non-action I'm willing to like put up with if it's
Yeah,
got
at
me
least you get
hooked
like the
enough.
sword like almost right away in Wind Waker.
Yeah.
Skyward
This even
Sword.
has certain things that are kind of exceed Wind Waker and certain like some of the cinematic nature of it or whatever, but
Yeah.
just it's more of just how much nonsense I feel like there is in there between that. It like overrides it for me. It's too much.
That is kind of what I was trying to get at is that I think there's a lot of stuff in this intro that if you take it out of context, it's like that's cool. This is cool. That's cool. But just because it's so much one after another and it's so long, it takes so long to get to the first dungeon in this game. It's crazy. And I do think there's another game that we're going to talk about that has also a very long intro that's got some stuff going on. But there's just something about this game. It just takes so long. I don't
it's
know.
overly concerned with certain tutorial elements that I saw in the remake. They're like, oh, they took this line of text out, but it's what more than just this line. It's like the whole thing,
Yes.
you know. Or I even
That's what
think Nico mentioned the flying, which is an example of like you get. I feel like that ceremony that should just be the tutorial, but
I don't
instead
know,
they're like,
yeah.
before you do that, they're like, do you want to fly a little bit or whatever and learn how to fly? And it's
Yeah.
like, Just teach me how to fly in the tutorial. It that can, or in
Yep.
the ceremony. That could be the tutorial.
Yeah.
Like that's
Before that, you got to go find your bird, and before that, you got to go through a cave,
Yeah.
and before that, you got to go get your sword. And
I think other games do a better job of making the story part of the gameplay, you know,
Yeah.
and this doesn't. It's like
Agreed.
it separates it, but then it also makes the gameplay stretch out even more
Now-
so too.
I will say it is nice that it's sort of like the beginning of Wind Waker, you do get a little glimpse at like what normal life is in Skyloft before
I do like that.
all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
You know, which is cool, but it's just really boring. I wouldn't want to live on Skyloft.
Oh, I feel like you should just be more free to explore it
Yeah.
yourself, you know. I mean, and you are,
Yeah.
there's a lot more you can uncover for sure. But I feel like it's like look at this.
Yeah.
You got to look at this.
I mean,
And
just
it's like,
looking at the other games on here, it's a weak intro. It's a wonderful game.
Yeah,
But thinking that the
comparatively, yeah.
the first dungeon is Skyview Temple? That's like an hour into the game.
yeah, that's one where
yeah.
it's like
Oh.
it's like not even, you can't even like, it's not like Tail Cave where maybe it's part of the intro. It's like, I feel like the intro
You're
and like the
hours
first
in.
act of the game is over.
Hours in.
You're like
Ugh.
3 parts into the game before you get there.
Chapter 3,
Yeah.
Part 2, and we're still in the intro.
Yeah, right.
Which that doesn't always have to be like, I think Breath of the Wild is a good case where maybe that you don't have to go to the dungeon right away. I don't, you know.
Well, I really like Skyview Temple, and I would like to include that in the intro to bump it up a little bit, but I just can't. It's too far down the road. You just
Yeah.
can't.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'd consider it part of the intro, and I'm still thinking about it, and I'm still
Yeah,
like, this is
right.
a D tier intro.
Yeah, I'm okay with D. Let's throw in D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, compared to the other games, yeah.
But
Okay.
Phi is wonderful.
Well,
I'm not talking about this anymore.
That was yours, right? So it's me.
Yes.
yeah, your turn, go.
Let's knock one out. I feel like when I come up, I'm like, let's knock some of the less prestigious out. I want to do Adventure of Link.
Adventure of Link. Okay.
Okay.
It's another one I like. You get, for me, it's like C, because I feel like you do get to the action right away, and it's pretty fun. But if you don't know what you're doing, I feel like it's less fun than The Legend of Zelda. And in fact, like, I just have very distinct memories. It's a game I love now, but I have distinct memories of playing it for the first time, and it's like kind of confusing the way it works.
It's not a friendly intro by
yeah.
any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it's
And
similar
the-
to where they're like, "Hey, good luck," but it's just like, what's going on?
But you do have characters who are like giving you hints, but it's a little weird. It's like you have to know to go through like a cave that's dark.
Yeah.
To me, that signals like you can't come in here yet, but you actually need to go through it.
Yeah.
And there's a character that's just like, get candle in Parappa Palace, and I'm like, okay, is that through the cave
What
that's
is
dark?
that?
Yeah.
What is
and
a
granted,
Parappa Palace?
yeah, I don't think it's as bad as other people make it out to be, but I think it's just not that strong. So for me, it's C.
Yeah, that's probably fair. C, I might even put it in D too. I just don't think
I can see
it's
it. Yeah.
I just don't really I'd be fine with either. I just don't really think, you know, you get out of North Castle or whatever, right? And you're immediately walking out into the overworld, and it is kind of that element of, hey, you could go up here, you could go over here, you could go over here. But you could easily die multiple times before you even get to any of the points where they start telling you tutorial stuff, you know?
I think the
Yeah.
problem most people have with this game is they don't get to experience the beginning because it's so hard right off the bat.
Yeah.
It turns so many people away from actually playing the game.
If you read the manual, which has got great art, and I think is a great
you know what?
experience.
It really does.
They lay out parts of
they lay out
the
some
map of the
stuff.
overworld for you, right?
So yeah, so you'd be a little less confused, but I still think if you wanted to put it in D, I wouldn't be mad, you know.
I think it's better than Skyward Sword. I think this deserves C tier. personally.
Okay.
All right.
I'm cool with C. I'm cool with C.
I will
That's
defend.
fine.
So many
Adventure
people are
Link.
going to be mad about this. I love it.
Remember, this
Yeah.
is intros. This is different, man.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not the whole
this is
game.
intros.
I could
This is
totally. Yeah.
intros.
It's not every day I see Adventure of Link above Skyward Sword, but okay.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So I'm going. Something you said, Nico, when we were doing Skyward Sword, made me want to do this one next, and let's do the Minish Cap.
Oh, okay. Got this guy right.
This is another element that it kind of falls along the lines of one of those games where it just unfurls story elements, but you do part of what I like about this intro is that you do get a glimpse of what Hyrule is like in peacetime. And I
Yeah.
think it's kind of fun that Princess Zelda comes to your house and is like, "Hey, pal, let's go to this festival."
And it's cute.
And then you get some fun music, and you get Zelda being cute, running around, and you get to see all the NPCs having fun and stuff. I think it's just a really nice little set piece. I don't think it's super enthralling, let's say, as it leads into the rest of the game. I am very fond of that game, so when a lot of this stuff is happening, I'm like, oh, this is charming, this is cool. But I do think it would be fair to say there's like a good amount of fluff in the beginning,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't really start to get into gameplay until they tell you, hey, go to Minish Woods, and then it goes into, you meet the Minish, you go into Deepwood Shrine. I think Deepwood Shrine is part of the intro, and I think Deepwood Shrine is
I would say so.
fantastic.
That's what I'm trying to think about right now. I think Deepwood Shrine is definitely part of the intro, and it is a great first dungeon.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite first dungeons as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the rest of the stuff kind of does just feel, while it is fun, I don't think it's particularly, anything super exciting.
It's fluffy
just
for sure.
It's fluffy.
I feel like
I would
it's
put it-
slightly restrictive. Like I sort of think of like the things to progress it as like you got to go talk to this person. Like first it's like you got to talk to Zelda here, then here, then here. Then
Yep.
there's like cool story stuff, but then you go and it's like you got to talk to Aslo and you got to like walk away from him and you gotta, like
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you go and then it's like
Sure.
not memorable to me because then you go to the Minish village and it's like
Go
it's
find
just
the
a series
Jabberknight.
of talking to people.
That's super memorable to me. I actually remember everything in this
I
intro.
never
just-
do. And I play it like every year and I'm like, who do I talk to? I don't know.
I do love that stuff. I just think it is kind of a little bit dragged out. I would personally put it in B.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
B?
We're like pretty unanimous on that.
Yeah, cool. That's
It's a great opening. It's just
Amicable.
not special.
yeah.
I don't feel
Good job.
I would even go lower personally. Not like I might do C, but
Let's move on. It's in B. Let's move on. That's fine.
Good job. You're a Zelda game. Let's see. So just to remind everyone watching, the Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures down here, as well as Triforce Heroes, which is kind of off the screen. We're not going to be
We're
doing
not doing those
We're not
piece
doing
of crud games. Just kidding.
Triforce Heroes.
just
Imagine
different.
starting a show and like theming it around Triforce Heroes. That'd be so silly.
Silly.
Let's go with a crowd favorite. Let's go with Ocarina of Time.
It's another banger. That's another S
It's a
tier.
banger and a half.
I think it does the things Corey talked about, a little space where you hang out like Wind Waker. I think it's better. And Wind Waker, that's what I was saying. It kind of lacks that like getting you right. Like I just love it. It gets you right into that first dungeon, which is a tutorial. I actually that and the Legend of Zelda I watched like at the time my like 7-year-old niece play, and both were fascinating for different reasons. One, Legend of Zelda was because she just was right into the game. Even a kid, can get that game right away. But Ocarina of Time, it was different because I was watching her play the Great Deku Tree and realizing how many little things in that are tutorials that I didn't even think were. Like just her figuring out how to jump over stuff or like do little simple things that are like, oh, this is actually teaching you. It's not just like a really basic puzzle. It like if you've literally never played a game, it teaches you, but it gets you right to it. It while still like kind of giving you a good story hook.
Lots of
and
flavor.
then after you beat it, then it really drops like the lore and like
It gets
crazy
sad.
stuff on you.
Hits you with the lore.
Just right across.
But while
the
still like
face.
here's your friend and here's this guy who hates you
Yeah.
and you can
Yep.
go into the lost woods and get completely confused.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it's in a similar way to Link's Awakening, where it's like here's a little bit that you can explore that you can't do, and then it opens up after that.
And then
That's my pitch.
then the game is just gigantic, and you're like, where do I go? It's so big.
I think
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time might be one of the best video game openings of all time. I think it's I clearly S tier.
Yes.
That's one of the strongest parts of this game. I feel like it's so perfectly designed and tailor-made to introduce someone into the world of Ocarina of Time, into the world of Zelda,
Yeah.
into the world of 3D gaming. Like everything is so perfectly first of all, Kokiri Forest is a fantastic set piece.
Oh yeah.
It starts going into the story elements right away and feeds into the atmosphere of the whole game. Most of the NPCs are their own little characters, but they also have, gameplay information to tell you. It's a small little playground area, but you have objectives to do in that little playground area. And then it leads into the Great Deku Tree, which is, again, one of the best intro dungeons in the whole series. It's perfectly tutorialized.
And it has all that stuff that later games, some that we talked about, like try to come up with ways to teach you that it's sort of optional. You can do like the little signs or like talk to the characters or go in the know-it-all house. And it's cool because it's there if you need it. And it's also in the booklet, which was still pretty decent at the time. But you can sort of also just go and explore and figure that stuff up. I think it perfectly threads the like tutorial, but also being fun.
Yeah.
It really does. I would 100% agree. I think this is one of the best openings to a video game ever because it's cute. The music gets you, the story gets you, and it's teaching you how to play the game so seamlessly with that story that it almost doesn't feel like a video game. It really like kind of transforms you and like teleports you into this game. I'm like openly, Ocarina of Time is not my favorite Zelda game. Can you guess what is? But I think this is the one thing that Ocarina of Time did perfectly is the intro. 100%.
Yeah.
All right.
I also think it's S tier. Before we move on, I just want to say I think it speaks volumes about the intro of this game that there are countless people who played this game as kids and never got past the Great Deku Tree, but still if you ask them, they'd be like, I love Ocarina of Time. That's such a great game. Just because they made so many fun memories just playing around in Kokiri Forest.
It's such a pleasant place. Yeah.
It is to be said.
is,
If you don't know
really
how to read, might be kind of tough to figure your way out of Kokiri Forest.
That's where Legend of Zelda comes in. You don't need to read to play the game.
You just play. That's for sure.
Wow.
Beautiful S tier.
Whose turn is it? My
You.
turn? All right.
Yes.
All right. I think I've taken the role of getting the least popular ones out. So
Knock 'em
I
out.
want to do Phantom Hourglass. It's fine. I don't know. I don't really. I don't know. I don't have much to say about it. Like story, I kind of like the story setup.
They kind of like do a throwback to trying to be Link's Awakening. You wake up on a beach, and
True.
You
It has a similar premise almost.
it's not
like
good.
alternate-
But I mean, they tried to do that.
I mean, it's I think it's charming.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's
characters-
really bad. Well, so
I don't think
haven't
it's
played-
bad. I just don't love it. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I haven't played Phantom Hourglass in a while, so refresh my memory a little bit. But from what I remember, I think you wake up on the left side of Murkay Island. You got to talk to Oshus, and it opens up like a cave, right? And you got to go around, and then
He has a
open the
cave with
bridge.
the bridge is destroyed,
Mhm.
so you have to take
Yes.
the way around.
You got to
But
go.
you have to get
okay.
the sword from Oshus, so you have to like learn from him, and then
Yep.
you go around, and that's where you can go up to the Temple of the Ocean King, and you have kind of that first encounter with Linebeck, which is really funny.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
that's
like,
true.
I've hurt my leg. Go on it without.
Please,
you know.
go. Oh no.
It's and then I wouldn't. This is not one where I feel like the first dungeon is really part of it because it's sort of the Temple of the Ocean King.
Yeah.
that's kind of the first and last dungeon, I guess.
Yeah.
But you don't really do much there. It's all kind of tutorialized stuff, and you
Well,
get
and
on your
that just
boat.
kind of leads you into once you get around, that leads you into the village, right? And then you get a boat, and then you can leave.
Yeah, once you
right.
get line back and you get the
One thing
But
about.
I think
Oh, go ahead, Corey.
I was just gonna say I think that's serviceable. I don't think there's anything about it that's really special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like it gets the job done.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, one thing about this game, especially at the beginning, I kind of was expecting. I remember playing this the first time, expecting Wind Waker, but better, and that didn't happen.
Okay, that's very high
Excuse me?
expectations.
I'm sorry to break the news to you, because I loved Wind Waker so much, and I was like, wow, it's the sequel. It's gonna be so exciting, and it's like even more linear and kind of just. I mean, it's on the DS. It's limited
It's different scale wise because you can start to explore the world
in segments.
in different ways, but it's
Yeah.
smaller. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
The intro, I didn't feel like I had that sense of discovery like I was hoping, and that was definitely a letdown as a kid.
Yeah,
But I think it's a solid C.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's fun.
it's
Let's
good.
see.
Good characters.
Lineback saves it for me, but
Let's follow that up directly with the other DS game, Spirit Tracks.
Okay.
I think maybe set. I think it's better. I think it's better than Phantom Hourglass, but I still don't think it's great.
no.
Yeah. I don't think if it is, I don't
It has
think
better
it's much
music?
better.
It has better music. Well, I think the things you do, I just think are generally more fun. I for one, I kind of like the trains. I don't mind the train tutorial. I think that's kind of cool. And I also include
remember
part
it.
of the intro as when you go up to Hyrule Castle and you're doing the sneak out section with Zelda.
Yeah.
That's cute.
That's a lot of
yeah.
fun.
There's like story set up there that's fun.
Well, but
I don't know.
even from a gameplay perspective, I think drawing the paths for Zelda and timing when you are talking to the guards and stuff, I think that's pretty
That's
fun.
fairly
gameplay-wise.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the intro it's a little more I mean I'd say it's even more difficult than Phantom Hourglass's because there's really not much to do in Phantom Hourglass. They're just kind of setting up touchscreen controls.
Well, I do like their Phantom Hourglass does set up like there's stuff where you got to write on the map
Yeah.
and do cute little puzzles in that path. There is that, and I've always liked that element of the game more than I like the stuff they introduced in Phantom Hourglass. So maybe it's more of a personal preference.
Spirit Tracks, you mean?
Yes, I like the kind of writing on the map and stuff like that. I do like Zelda's character a little bit more. Like that's a really charming part of the game, but I don't really like the train gameplay or anything like that. So
As much as I think this is a better intro than Phantom Hourglass, I don't think it's a B tier intro. I kind of think it's about the same tier, but just
That's what I think,
slightly
too.
better.
Okay. That's fine.
Personally,
I would have put it in B, but I'm not gonna fight for that. It's not really. It's not a super.
outvote it.
You know what I think is interesting about this intro is that I personally think it's fun, but aside from it's just like a lot of the tutorial stuff doesn't have a lot to do with like solving puzzles or fighting enemies, which is most of what you're going to be doing. It's the trains, and then it's like navigating Zelda, which does come into play in the Tower of Spirits, but
The train is like moving on the overworld, so
yeah.
yeah, it's like a main mechanic, but you don't get that same fighting mechanic as Phantom Hourglass. I guess.
Exactly. It doesn't teach you what you're going to be doing when you get to the locations,
Yeah. Maybe they're just presuming like you kind of know that stuff.
You played and loved the first one, right? You're gonna keep.
It was Wind Waker, but better.
Yeah.
How about that? But even better.
Whoa. Okay, yeah, I think
Okay.
C is fair.
All right, so I think we got like big games left that everyone
Heavy
gets
hitters.
excited about. Yeah.
Let's
fill it in.
I'm actually very curious. This is my turn, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm actually curious about this one because I don't actually have super strong opinions on this, even though I've played it a lot. Twilight Princess.
Mm,
Because I honestly, I think I've
nah.
just always played this game just like, oh, I'm playing it to play it. And like I enjoy it. Obviously, it's Zelda. I'm gonna like it. The intro isn't special to me, but it's not bad. I don't think. I'm like, I don't know what my opinion is here.
Or you got the poster. I'll let you go.
You're obviously the biggest Twilight Princess nerd.
It's got an infamous intro, and some people on the staff and some people in the community would also probably like parallel it with Skyward Sword. And this is something that
Okay.
I was hinting at when we were talking about Skyward Sword, is that you can easily.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say this is a good intro because it's long and the pacing is just all over the place. And something that Goo says a lot about this is it feels like you do the filler thing before you get to the thing you need to do, and then it's followed up by another filler thing.
Ooh.
And that this intro is really just like doing a bunch of mundane tasks that are like completely not related to
I am
what
thinking
you're going to
about
be
that.
doing.
Yeah, you gotta
It's
get
just
a
like-
fish and a
Yeah,
fishing
Well-
you gotta
pole.
get a fish for a cat, and you gotta
To
like
get a-
get a slingshot, and you gotta herd some goats, and then you gotta herd some goats again, and then you gotta find your horse, and you gotta go walk.
Which I
to your
guess is
horse
part of
over
the
a
like
thing.
here's life
I-
in Ordon Village.
Yes,
Well, that's the big
I have
part.
a great-
Is that
that's the good part, I think.
yes, it's a lot of these tasks seem mundane or completely irrelevant, but I do think, as far as building the world goes, I think they're really good.
They do build the world fantastically. I would agree.
The problem lies in that you go up to the forest temple 3 times,
Yeah,
and it's not until the 3rd time that you can finally enter it. I feel like
Oh
it
my
should
God,
be
yeah.
it should be
Actually.
like it should be similar to like Wind Waker, or Ocarina is the best example, where you learn about the town a little bit. They add a little bit extra. They have to teach you how to shoot the boomerang and swing your sword. That's a little, that's pushing it a little bit. But then it should be like the monkeys kidnap the kids, and then you free it right outside the forest temple, and
And
it's
then
like
go in.
that should be it. But then it's like
Yeah.
we've got
and
this
it's like
wolf
2 other
mechanic,
tutorial things.
which I don't really like the wolf mechanic, but now they've got to have this whole tutorial where they explain that,
yeah.
which is, it's not a deep mechanic. So anyway, then you do that. Then you got to go up as the wolf to get to the forest temple.
This
But
sounds like a lecture in college I just fell asleep through. I don't know.
it's just too much. It's too much. That, and yeah, that's what I agree
I'm-
with what Corey said. I said, which is throughout the game, you do something that feels like, oh, that was a nice little set piece to bridge
Yeah.
the story from one dungeon to the next, but then there's so much going on. I think too much going on.
Would you say it's better than Skyward
Yeah.
Sword in the fact that there's less cutscene and you're doing more?
Well, I just personally, I just enjoy it more.
Okay. Yeah,
I just think,
do too.
I just think it's more fun. Like it is. It's a. I'm not gonna lie. It's a ton of just filler, and it does not. It's not a very functional
Okay.
intro. But I like the stuff I'm doing, so
Where's
I'm
the
much
end of the
more
intro?
okay with it.
Where's the end of the intro for you? I'm curious.
That's another one where I have no clue. I have no clue.
I think it's got to be like entering the first dungeon, because the first dungeon it's pretty awesome, but it
Yeah.
is not a tutorial dungeon.
No. it's
By
not.
that point, if you don't know how to do something in the game, like
Okay, that's
you're,
fair.
you're
That
in
makes sense.
trouble. They have
Yeah.
taught you everything extensively.
Okay.
Probably entering the forest temple, I'd say, is the end. And like
Interesting.
the stuff, it's really like the wolf plugging that whole section in there really makes it feel like, wow, this is going on a long time.
That's something that, yeah, I feel like Ocarina of Time it's better in that way, that it kind of waits. It gives you, like Wind Waker does this too, where it gives you kind of just smaller, more personal stakes to get into the story, and
Yeah.
then once you do the first thing, then it kind of drops this crazy lore and world on you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, you're the hero of
like-
wins, by the way.
These other games have a lot going on in them, but it's paced a little bit better. Whereas like Twilight Princess, I feel like it wants to drop everything on you. There's still some like tease of like what's going on here, but it does want to like put every element in the beginning, and it just doesn't make for like,
Wow.
I don't know. I guess if you're really invested in the story, I'm sure anyone who really likes the story, this will never come off as bad to them, but I don't know.
Well, I see why I didn't
think
have
it's-
much of an opinion, because there's just so much. Like,
It's a lot.
I didn't know what to think about it.
I
That's fair.
so to bring it to the ranking, because I'm fond of this game, I would put it in B.
Okay.
Realistically, I don't think it's nearly as bad as Skyward Sword. I think we're probably hovering B or C.
I think
What do you guys
like gameplay wise, I've played through it plenty of times, and it doesn't turn me away from the game. It's silly. It's kind of like it's
Who doesn't
long
like
and
fishing? Who doesn't like
mundane.
herding goats?
Yeah, I like
Who doesn't
that
love
stuff.
herding goats enough to do
Everyday-
it twice?
Everyday things in Ordon. Just another day in Ordon
That's
Village.
Link's job.
Yeah.
That's cool. You get to
I
do
think-
Link's job.
I think this is a B tier. It's not super high B tier. It's B tier material. Because I like
Alright,
this
we're-
better than all those C tier games.
I feel like we're gonna have to compromise here because I would put it above Skyward Sword in D. Like I don't like
Ugh.
it really.
Okay.
Ooh.
So if we want to put it at top of C, maybe. I know we don't rank the.
Where exactly
Tiers?
would you put it, Corey?
Corey said B.
Personally, I would put it in B.
Okay.
I am also okay with doing that compromise and putting it in C, though.
Wow. Sees a crowd. We don't rank within the tiers, but we'll just
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sure. There you
it's
It
middle
could be at the top.
middle C tier. I mean, it's all
Mhm.
C tier. It's a C tier. There's no ranking within it. But
Okay.
I mean, I did not expect the list to look like this.
There's a lot of
This is
people would
not a
disagree,
P.
which do your disagreement in the comments, and you
Yes.
can say you hate
go. All right.
whoever you want, as long as
Whose
it's not
turn is
me.
it?
It's
you know,
Gooey.
it's me. I'm this is one I'm curious about. Cause,
Okay.
Well, let's do Majora's Mask because I want to know. I want to know what Nico thinks about it.
It's not a very strong opening to a video game. They don't give you any story, and like they don't teach you anything, and it's like probably the least memorable main center of a Zelda game. Pretend I said
I thought
none
you were
of
being
that.
serious for a second.
No, Clocktown I think is the perfect introduction to this world. I consider the intro the first 3 days.
Yeah.
I don't think
I agree.
Woodfall is not the intro.
No,
That's-
it's far. It's
That's
way
so far
off.
into the game.
Far off.
There's only 4 dungeons in this game, so I
Who would
mean,
do that in a Zelda game?
poor Majora's Mask. But I think those first 3 days teach you the time mechanic, which is so unique to this game and terrifying, and it's what turns a lot of people away. But if you're able to complete these first 3 days while talking to the NPCs, which is a huge part of this game, learning a little bit of the mechanic of being Deku Link, which is also super important, and then
And fun. Deku Link
transforming
is fun.
back. I love Deku Link. I just think those first 3 days are such a good introduction to this weird world that is probably not what you were expecting after Ocarina of Time, but
Mhm.
it is to me an S tier opening because it's so gripping, and it like you're confused and you want to know the story while it also teaches you the main mechanics. But I want to know what you guys say.
I think I'll be strong on it too. I don't think Corey will. I don't think. I think it does a good job of giving you. I'm sure there's plenty of people who did not get past the first 3 days because
Yup.
they got confused. But I don't think it's. I think it's pretty straightforward what
I
you
do
need
too.
to do. I actually think what's good about it is it gives you a lot of spare change in time to go to every part of this town
Yep.
and start seeing what people's deal is and like start
What's your
seeing that
deal?
this works on like a schedule, this person's over here,
Mhm.
this person's over here, and there's all these things that you can't quite access yet, but it's like what is this, and there's a lot, but it's not meant to be fully completed in that go, and you
No.
see that. And so that's what I think is cool about it, because that's some people don't like that mechanic, but I like the mechanic because I love this little kind of toy box world of the characters going on these schedules and stuff. And I think being able to kind of dip in and see what they do is a strong intro. I don't know where I would put it. I guess I feel strongly about it, but I don't know. So
And I mean,
Corey,
obviously,
I guess would.
I will admit my opinion is skewed in that it is my favorite Zelda game, obviously. I'll put that out there. I just want to put that out there. Okay, Corey, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because I think Clocktown's great. I think the 3-day system is cool. I think talking to the NPCs is great, but as an intro, I agree the intro ends at the end of the first 3-day cycle. And in that first 3-day cycle, I feel like you really don't learn much about the game, honestly.
Okay.
The whole time, first of all, it's only teaching you how to play as Deku Link, which, sure, it's fun, but it is absolutely not the transformation mask that you're going to be using the most. It's probably the one that you're going to be using the least in the entire game. After the first...
No.
I mean,
definitely
come on.
is. You're going to use Zora... Well, first of all, you're going to be playing the game mostly as regular Link, and I would much rather play as Goron Link or Zora Link in the meantime.
I play like the whole game as Deku Link.
As Deku Link?
I do.
Why?
Because he's so fun
We
to
did the
spin
mask
around.
ranking. Remember the mask ranking?
Yeah, but
It's cool.
it's cool, but
Oh my
it's not a big part of the game. I really don't think it's that big of a part of the game.
Okay.
Teaching you about the Deku mask, I don't think is essential to the entire game of Majora's Mask, because there are plenty other points where you need to... The entire build-up into the first dungeon is using the Deku mask. So that's plenty tutorial enough. You don't need extra stuff in the beginning. And in addition to that, Nico, you said it teaches you about the 3-day cycle, about turning back time. It really doesn't, because you only need to turn back time one time, and then that's the end of the intro. And
Well,
in terms of...
what I mean by teaching you the 3-day cycle is that, like, what happens when you play the Song of Time? Like,
Yes.
what kind of things do you lose? Like, oh, everything's reset. Did I lose my progress? Okay, I still have this done.
Yeah,
You know.
it teaches you that one time at the end of the intro. And
Yeah,
I
which is
think
important.
all of that stuff, I do think it's a very good, it does an awesome job of world building, because I think that Clocktown and the way that the NPCs are on that cyclical nature is inherent to what makes this game so awesome.
Mhm.
But I really don't feel like, at least every time I've played it, that's never something that I fully grasp within the first 3-day cycle. I walk around because they tell you, hey, this thing is going to happen at the end of the 3rd day. Just go do whatever until that time. And you're going to spend a lot of time walking around, exploring, talking to people. I don't start to memorize anyone's cycles or what anyone's doing until I've been playing the game for a few hours.
That's
And on top of that, if you're playing this game for the first time, you're not going to know where the Scarecrow is to learn the Song of Double Time, or to learn the song where you can skip ahead. So I think a lot of people playing this game for the first time are going to start walking around, talking to NPCs, and then be like, okay, what do I do now? And then standing around for the next 10 minutes until...
Well, that's why they put the Scarecrow in the observatory.
He's in multiple locations, and if you're walking around...
Are you unobservant? No, I'm sorry.
Is the Scarecrow in the observation thing
he's
in
at the
the
bottom
original?
of the
Yes,
original? Yeah,
he's
at
in
the
both
bottom.
there and the shop.
Okay.
You're
didn't
gonna
notice
bump
him.
into him, yeah.
You'll see him.
I don't know.
You'll talk to him. I should
I don't
as a
know.
kid.
Of course, the game's not gonna teach you about... It's gonna start showing you their patterns, but you need the foundation. Like, it's gotta keep happening, you know? It requires the repetition, you know? And I think it
Sure.
requires you kind of being... Maybe not requires, but, like, it helps you being kind of stuck there to just sort of go and see what is in every building, you know?
I don't know. I just think that for me doesn't make a good intro. I think it helps build the world a lot, but I think the core of that stuff that you learn, I don't think it's a great tutorial. I think is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, no, that
It
makes
has
sense. I
those
get that.
elements. And I think if you're an attentive enough person where you want to pay attention to the details and try and discern meaning from all the things that are in Clocktown, which would be a smart thing to do. But I
Yeah.
think if you're just trying to play a video game, you're starting a game for the first time, I don't think there's a ton of stuff to do, and I don't think it teaches you a ton of stuff unless you're really looking for something to learn.
Okay, I mean, I think that's
That's
fair.
kind of my
I think it's fair.
my
Well, I think that's just a difference in what you're looking to get out of it,
Yeah.
I guess, then.
Because I think
you
for
know?
me, the first 3 days just
I
makes
suppose.
me like it kind of teases you with a lot of stuff. Like, wait, like
Yeah.
I like, oh, why is the shop closed? Like, am I able to go
Who's
back?
this kid who's immediate there with the purple hair or what, like,
Yeah,
I don't
and
know.
like I
That's-
think it's a
yeah.
lot of teasing you, like, oh, I want to figure more stuff up, like I want to figure out about that thing, or like I want to get out of these walls, I want to like see what's out there. So like to me that was the big thing, but I can get why it's not necessarily like satisfying as a tutorial.
Well, I agree that it definitely teases you well, but I think to me that can come off as confusing, especially to a new player. I think it could be a lot of stuff where you might just be like, what is this? And then you don't get a clear answer until much later into the game.
Wait, so you're telling me Majora's Mask is a confusing video game? I've never been told this in my life. What are you saying?
Yeah. I think that's all just going to come down to like personal preference. Cause for me,
Yeah.
I like that it's, I don't know. I feel like it can only be the way it is because it is the way it is. So I don't know.
Wow, a famous
Deep.
quote by Gooey fame.
And it's hard to describe, but I feel like people don't like I know this is not your criticism, but I feel like it's often the criticism is like, and even the defense is like, people will be like, I don't like that 3-day system, it's so hard. And some people go like, no, you just need to get better. That's the point, is that it's challenging. And I don't like it for the challenge, I like it for that Groundhog Day-esque
Mhm.
element. And
Yeah.
so I feel like it's just kind of, maybe it's not inherent to that type of gameplay, but I feel like it is. But I guess this year there was all these like time loop games and stuff like that.
That's
so maybe I
true.
gotta check those out and see
Yeah.
how they've refined Majora's Mask.
What is
if they
that?
have.
That was it 12 minutes, is that what it's called?
There was like a ton of them. There was like Death Loop, and
So I'm
there was like
thinking-
4.
Yeah, the one, I think it's called 12 minutes or something like that. I watched my friend play it and it looked really cool. I want to play it. But Corey, what is your ranking of this intro?
Where would you put it?
B.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
well, Nico said S, and I think we should
And you
just
said S.
moderate and put it in A.
I'm
Because
happy
I
with
wasn't
A.
sure what to think, but I'm fine with just meeting in the middle.
I'm super happy with A.
That's cool with me.
It's about
All
Twilight
right.
Princess, so I'm happy. Anyway, go on.
We really duked it out.
This episode
That
was
was
longer
me.
than I thought it would be, but I'm actually okay with it because I'm hearing some very interesting opinions about games that I've never heard before. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having fun.
I'm into this. We have
Yes.
3 left.
Whose turn?
It's
Heavy
Clea.
hitters, yours. No, I
Mine.
did. I was curious about Majora's Mask. So
I didn't
picked-
choose
okay.
Majora's Mask.
no,
Why
I
did
said
I
I,
just
wanted to know
assume-
your opinion.
I just assumed that I picked it.
I'm gonna go with A Link Between Worlds.
Okay.
And this is another one that I was actually thinking. A Link Between Worlds is one of my favorite Zelda games
Mhm.
as well. It's in my top 3. I think it's a fantastic game. And I actually don't think the opening is incredibly strong.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
there's a
it's
lot
not
of
awful,
really
though.
No, definitely. I think it's good. I just don't
It's
think
good.
it holds up. I don't think it holds up to some of the best, because it does kind of, something I like about this game is that it kind of opens up and Link's just late for work.
Yeah.
You know, Gully comes over. He's like, dude, my dad's going to yell at you. You need to go freaking work. And it's like, oh, geez, I overslept. I got to go to my job.
That
Typical
happens
Link.
in a lot of
Blacksmith's like,
Twilight
I'm going to
Princess. that
fire
happens.
you if you don't deliver this sword. I think there's a fun element of like, even down to the music where it's like a peaceful version of like, it's kind of like a Hyrule Field theme, like variation type thing.
Yeah. I think it's
And-
a really fun opening.
It is fun.
It has a lot of heart and it's cute.
It's cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got
It
Gully
also
being
harkens
like,
back to it harkens back to A Link to the Past where like you got to do like a sewer section and stuff, but I just don't think it doesn't put you into the action right away like A Link to the
Yeah.
Past does, which we'll get to that, but I do feel like it's kind of separated into chunks that once you get to a certain point where you do the first dungeon, like a lot of stuff does really open up to you all at once, which I think is fantastic. That's a great part about this game is the way that you explore the world and stuff like that. But I think leading up to the first dungeon, which is what I think the intro is, I think it is pretty segmented. You need to do this and then this and then this and then this. And there's a few small things you can do in between, but I don't think it's particularly groundbreaking the way that it starts up. So I would probably say like B.
Yeah, I like B.
That
Yeah, you compared it to A
Yeah.
Link to the Past, and I feel like it's similar in a lot of ways that make it great. But I feel like in that, yeah, it's just a little bit like it's kind of more modern Nintendo game, so it's a little bit more hand-holdy, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's still good. It moves you through really at a really nice pace, and the story is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I like the
it's- yeah,
story stuff you get. It's fun. Sarah
it's similar
gets
to
captured,
Ages,
you meet Yuga.
really, where it's like, yeah, this
Yeah.
is all nice. It's all fun, and it doesn't take long.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a super long intro. Which is what I like.
Okay.
So we're gonna throw that in B? I would agree.
Yeah, if you're okay with it.
Well then
okay.
I think we should just chat about A Link to the Past.
Okay.
Because I think comparing it, A Link to the Past is a better intro.
It's so sick.
It's it is wonderful. Because it just kind of throws you right in, but it still gives you the perfect amount of story right off the bat. It doesn't overload you like Skyward Sword. It doesn't throw you directly in like, let's say, The Legend of Zelda, but it gives you enough to like, you want to know more. You obviously you have to go like, he's your uncle, right? God,
Yeah.
why has it been so long? You have to go get the sword. You have to go save. It's like, whoa, I'm being thrown into this. I'm suddenly a hero. What's going on? And I think that element of it is super fun. And it's like the same thing I like about Wind Waker, but it's quicker,
Yeah. It's got like the mood is so sweet. The
Yeah.
music is cool. It's storming and it's dark and your uncle's like,
Stormy night.
stay inside, something's going on. And you're talking to some of the guards and they're like, you gotta go back home.
Yeah.
And some are like, I don't feel good, and then you bust into Hyrule Castle and you're like, you bust out Zelda, and it's like a cool opening area because it's like a dungeon, but it's really just kind of like
It's like
open and
it's
you
like a
explore
mini
it.
dungeon that teaches you how dungeons work, kind
Yeah,
of.
that's true.
Yeah.
Or like what dungeons will be like.
And even the sewers do that, and then you come out into that sanctuary and it's got amazing vibe too, the music there, and they drop and they drop all this stuff on you, and then you step out of the sanctuary and it's just like you can go anywhere, similar to the Legend of Zelda. And it's like they give you a direction to like that will, if you follow it, it'll lead you to the first dungeon. But you can also just go to the first dungeon if you happen to go there, which is really cool. I think like it's almost like the storytelling is there, but it's sort of like you kind of have to discover it for yourself, or you can just keep going and like keep busting on through.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
It's
definitely. I
S
also
tier
like
for me.
how like a lot of it's S tier for me too. I think this is one of the best Zelda openings. The atmosphere is top notch. I think the way that it teaches you about the game is top notch because it throws you right into the action. It gives you hints of what the rest of the game is gonna be like in terms of overworld traversal. Because in the beginning, that section that you can explore, it's enough where you can explore, but it's small enough where you're confined and you're gonna have to get to the point you need to get to eventually. It gives you the little hints of what dungeons are going to be like. And you mentioned some of what the NPCs are saying. Some of the NPCs that are just like blocking off the routes, if you talk to them, they give you like little tutorial things. Like, did you know that you can
Wait, do
if
they
you press
really?
this button, you can do this?
Yeah.
They do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's funny.
Yeah. So that's pretty fun.
There is
I think
one that has like a hint about like they're being taken over by like dark magic, right? Am I wrong, or I'm wrong about that? I feel like there's one
There
NPC
might
that's
be.
like, I'm not feeling good or something, and it's like
There's
foreshadowing.
there's a bunch of soldiers you can talk to, so I wouldn't be
I feel
surprised.
like I need to do a replay of Link to the Past where it's just like, don't just play it to play it. Go in, like experience the story, like read
That's
out the text,
De-
talk to the
the
NPCs.
details.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like just like like that's what makes the game great, is because the story is it's so simplistic, and it's kind of like rooted in a lot of like classic fantasy, but then there's just all these little characters and flavor text that I love, that where it's just like they just drop these little morsels and you're like, whoa, what does this mean? Like they even the way they talk about the Triforce is like
Yeah.
the golden power.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
it's because now we're just like the Triforce is just like a
That's
cool
what we're
item that you
used to it now.
collect.
They
Yeah.
speak about it with such like a gravitas. Like it
Yeah.
really feeds into the lore of the world. I think it's awesome. Great world building. This is a top-notch intro, definitely.
S.
Boom.
Yeah.
Look at that.
That's the most unanimous S, right? Well,
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time was.
Yeah. Oh, I think, yeah, these two for sure, Ocarina of Time and Link to the Past. And now I'm curious, the only one we have left, because we're not touching those three, is Breath of the Wild.
I think it's pretty sweet.
Pretty dope.
Honestly, it's another one I would probably put in S, because it gives you a mini version of the game
Yeah.
and it's so cool. You can go around and explore and do whatever.
Personally think this is, I'll probably get flack for this. I think this is the best opening to a Zelda game, period.
Wow.
They teach you every possible mechanic that is unlocked from the beginning in the Great Plateau, all the way up until
there's no horses.
all the way up until you get the paraglider. You have all of the main things that you need to know. You know how to cook. You know how to get through snow. You know how to fight enemies. You understand the Sheikah technology.
You know how weather works.
Yeah, you understand the weather. You understand climbing. There are so many things you have to know in Breath of the Wild because they just changed the entire way Zelda works. And basically, no matter where you go on the Great Plateau, you're going to learn something new. And I just think they knew what they were doing with the Great Plateau. They took a lot of time to perfect this tutorial, I think.
Yeah. It really, I agree with you. This is also, I think, one of the best video game openings of all time. Alongside Ocarina of Time. I think it's around that level, maybe better, maybe a little bit worse. But it is literally a microcosm of Breath of the Wild as your intro. It's the essential sandbox playground intro. Here's your little area to experience exactly how things work. And I think Nico's right. Almost everything that is going to be in the game, you get a hint of, or you learn how to do it in the Great Plateau. You get the shrines, you get everything. And I think one of Breath of the Wild's biggest strengths, for me at least, is something that it kind of gets unsung when you talk about this game, and it's just the engine, the way that the mechanics of the game work, the way that you can shoot a fire arrow into grass, which creates an updraft that you can then like rise up on, the way that the entire world functions and everything works together in cohesion. I think that's the most impressive thing about that game, and this area perfectly teaches you. It leads you into learning about how these things work. Like, for example, just something like shortly after you exit the cave, like or a little bit farther along, whatever, there's like an area where there's some bokoblins at the bottom of a hill, and there's some explosive barrels. Or no, there's a rock. There's a
rocks.
rock
There's
that's
a couple
sitting on
spots.
top of a ledge.
Yeah.
And you see, like, if you come across that, most of the time you're naturally going to make the connection, wait a minute. I could push this.
Yeah.
And if you push it just right, it'll roll down the hill and kill the bokoblins. And that's the kind of aha moment gaming that makes people feel so good when they're playing a video game. And this is just chock full of tutorial moments like that.
I'll also say, as far as the runes go, let's say you go up to the Magnesis Shrine, you're like, okay, cool. Hey, I found a shrine. I'm going to go do the thing. You get magnesis right away. You go through the shrine, pretty simple. You get your spirit orb and you leave. The first thing you're naturally going to do when you leave is use magnesis. You want to check and see what you can use it on.
There's a ton of things around.
There's so much stuff you can use it on. There's chests hidden under the water. There's metal boulders for some reason, but like
there's
platforms.
enemy weapons.
There's weapons. There's so much that suddenly is like, whoa! I just walked past all of this stuff, had no idea I could even control it, and now I have the ability to pull it out of the water and do whatever. And it's the same with bombs. The bomb shrine is surrounded by bombable walls. Yep. Cryonis is a little weird because it's like you don't use it so much. As compared to the
even
others.
then, it's like that makes any standard pond or body of water. You can make pillars and just walk straight across.
You can stand on it.
Yeah,
and the same with stasis. You've got that rock on top of the chest that you're like, well, I want to open that chest. How do I open that chest? Well, then you get stasis and you can open it.
You get stasis launching. Yeah, everyone knows how to do that, right?
Learn how to stasis launch. I just think overall, it's a beautiful intro to a video game.
Yeah.
Plus, just the right amount of story, in my opinion, because you just want to know more. The opening, you wake up, you're like, Zelda's talking to me? What's going on? Here's a Sheikah Slate. And then you open up and it's like, Hyrule.
It has a similar mentality in that it waits till you beat the plateau to kind of dump a lot of more stuff on you.
And it's all up to you to discover the story. You don't have to discover the story.
Yeah, the memories and
well, that's
all that.
That's the cool thing too. That's just part of why Breath of the Wild is so great, because to get off of the Great Plateau, you only need to do the 4 shrines and then get the glider, and that's it.
The world is yours.
If you don't want to do all that extra stuff, you don't have to. You could spend much less time on the Great Plateau than most people would. You just got to do the shrines, talk to the old man, get the glider, and then the way the intro ends is just the world is your oyster. You know what you need to do, but you don't have to do it.
You get the quest.
Go explore.
Defeat Ganon.
Yeah.
It's like, cool. I remember getting that, and I was like, what?
There's like an overworld boss on there too.
Yeah, you have a
talus.
You have a talus on the Great Plateau, and in Master Mode, you have a Lionel too. Ooh.
Yeah, and it like it doesn't like, I don't know, it the way it teaches that stuff is all by self-discovery, like Corey mentioned. It doesn't do the like, now here's the part of the game where we show you how to cook. There's a quest, like a mini quest you can do to do that.
Yeah, reading
but there's
the
also
diary
you don't have to.
You don't have to. There's many ways to survive the cold. Or you could just not. You could just be chowing down the whole time.
That's also pretty interesting because you can cook and follow what the diary says, give it to the old man, and he'll give you the warm doublet. Or you can figure out cooking on your own, and if you go up to the tallest peak on the Great Plateau and talk to him, and you have not got the warm doublet, he'll just give it to you.
He'll give you it.
It's like a reward
cool.
for you figuring out cooking without the diary. And I just think no matter what you do, you're going to be rewarded for exploration in this video game, and that's what the Great Plateau teaches you. And it's so good.
Yes.
It's a pretty unanimous S here,
yes.
Right?
I would think so. Yeah.
All right.
Save the best for last.
I love Breath of the Wild.
This is not a P though. That's unfortunate.
No. What do we do?
It kind of looks like a, but it's like sideways, like.
I feel bad for Skyward Sword.
I don't. It's the worst opening. Congratulations! It's the 25th anniversary of our Knight Academy. I don't care.
They couldn't have changed it to 35th.
Come on. They didn't in the HD version.
Exactly.
They should have. Could have been our one crumb. Anyway, I hope we get a sequel to Breath of the Wild this year.
We don't want to move anything, do we?
I don't think so.
I know we disagreed on stuff, but I feel like this is pretty representative.
I'm all right with it.
Usually
when we get to a place, I'm like, all right, we've already hashed it out. That's good enough for the most part.
I feel good about it. So
yeah, I feel good too.
This is pretty good. Good job, you guys.
Sweet. Yeah, that was a fun one. It was a long one, but I don't care because
Yeah.
it was fun to do.
It was nice.
Fun to talk about.
I thank you for having cool opinions, you guys. Y'all are pretty cool.
We had a long intro to 2022. People are going to talk about how Tier Force Heroes' intro to 2022 is too long.
Oh my
You
goodness.
could watch this alongside playing Skyward Sword, and you might not even be on the surface.
Have
yet.
you met Fi
You
yet?
would easily. This is like 1/4 of the length of Skyward Sword's intro.
You could have easily beaten the Legend of Zelda though, alongside
Twice.
doing this.
Yeah.
You beat Legend of Zelda twice.
Wow.
Well, thank you guys for
Ooh.
starting the year out with us at Tier Force Heroes. We're happy to be making these. They're a lot of fun, and we're excited to make more this year.
Yes. Yeah, leave comments. We've had fun suggestions, I feel like. So.
Yeah, we have a huge list of suggestions, and we keep taking random ones and not going off of our big list that we came up with a while ago.
Some random one just kind of strikes one of us. Or
whatever tickles our fancy for the month.
So if you have a good enough idea, we'll take it.
We sure will.
Yeah, we'll throw out all our stupid ideas.
Oh man. Well, take us out of here, Goo.
Yeah, again, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for coming in the new year. Check out we got all our links in the bottom for all our stuff and all the Zelda Dungeon stuff. You know where it is. And yeah, happy 2022, I guess. Bye-bye.
Bye.